Webinar is now streaming live on YouTube.
Let me just double check. Setting up your webinar for thing. And we are live.
Cool.
Okay, so
have you click the broadcast button to get it out of practice mode?
1 second. There we go. We are now live as well on board this, and the attendees are starting to pop in. Would you look at that technology?
It's working. It's working.
It's working. We have faith. We've got 12, 13, all these people. Welcome, everybody. I've put the keys out. I want you to imagine that you've found your place in the gorgeous space cubes.
That's right. Sitting there at Riff. But no, welcome to our home offices for the very first totally online morning startup. How's this? Awesome. Huge. So we got 24 now in there. Cool.
Wow.
All right. Well, I'm going to assume everyone can see what's going on and can see us and can see my screen and things. So we'll get into it. So thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully you got a coffee. My name is Scott Glue. I'm one of the hosts, obviously, at Morning Startup, along with Dave Newman, who you can see there in the blue shirt. And today we've got a very special morning startup. Firstly, we are online for the first time, but we also have Cam Sinclair from MO Marketing, who's going to be interviewing Tyler Spooner from the UnoGroup. And this is a live recording of their Weird Growth podcast. So if you're not already liked and subscribed to the Weird Growth podcast, go and do that now. It's Tyler, Cam, it's where all good podcasts are now, right? You can get it on any app you want.
Certainly is.
Excellent.
Anchor FM, it sure is. It's everywhere.
Anchor FM, good stuff. All right. Well, look, we're going to go through the the same slides we usually present at Riff. Some of it may not be too relevant in a webinar format. So introductions and shameless plugs is a good example. But look, I guess you guys have the Q&A section in Zoom. So if you do have a question, obviously, but even a shameless plug, you want to share something that you're working on, chuck it in the Q&A section and just put, this obviously isn't a question, but please check this out, or I need help, or something like that. I think you can use the Q&A section to whatever purposes you need. So we'd love to hear from you.
It's good to see some familiar faces on there. Just going to give a shout out to Charlie Gullingham, Jack, Brendan, Amadine. Good to see you on here. So it's good to see everybody on there. Feel free to interact, as Scott said, in the Q&A. And if you want to do some shameless plugs, put them in there and we will read them out at the end. I think we'll do the shameless plugs at the end of this. So that's Scott, we couldn't run this without these great supporters. So do you want to go left? You take left, or I'll take the next one.
All right, Beecham Group. Not sure if Glenn is in the chat there somewhere, but he runs the Beecham Group, and they are a boutique recruitment company here in Perth. During these challenging times, maybe you are looking for a new gig, or maybe you are looking for talent. So hit up the Beecham Group. He's very well connected, and he can help you out.
Brilliant. Startup News, what a great read that is every Friday afternoon. If you haven't subscribed to Startup News, make sure you do. Written by Charlie and Patrick and the crew there. Really informative articles come out every Friday, tell you what's going on in the WA startup scene.
Indeed. I think the worst thing any startup can be doing right now is to be quiet and not letting anyone know what they're up to. So Startup News but also techboard.com.au. If you have an announcement you want to share, chuck it on techboard.com.au, and that will go out to their sort of investor heavy focused audience. But that's a great service that's been up there for a few years now.
Brilliant. We couldn't do this whilst we are virtual today. As many of you do know, we have for the last sort of 9+ years been running this at SpaceCube. So it's a shame we are doing this online. Our preference is to do it at SpaceCube, but just to give a great shout out to Brody and all the team there at SpaceCube for allowing us to run such a great event for the last 9 or so plus years. And if you are looking for some co-working space when this is all done and dusted, then by all means check out SpaceCube or check out Riff or Flux for that co-working space.
Just on that, I know that it's got to be one of the worst times to have the word co-working space as part of what you do. But SpaceCube also get involved with a whole ton of events and programs to help startups and to help businesses in WA. So I know they've just launched a new initiative called Adapt or something along those lines. I will, or Amandine or someone, if you want to pop that in the Q&A, a link to that, that would be great. Just where businesses can share how they're getting through these times and also all the programs that they have available.
Yeah, their Don't Stop program is looking really good. There's some great amount of support there for founders. It's really good.
Adapt, Don't Stop. Very cool.
Right. I'll take Voltage. Shane, Voltage probably one of the companies most affected by this current event. Again, when this all startups, please everybody make sure you go and see them. Make sure you buy one coffee and then just take two. You know, two coffees is always better than one. So just go and grab as many coffees as you can when all this stuff is done. But yeah, give a shout out to Voltage. Tell them that you've come from Morning Startup, and do you know what? Just pay full price. Don't ask for a discount. If anything, pay more, because we need to support all the local businesses in this time.
Yep. Tell you what, something you can do right now is we head on over to their Facebook page. I believe it's just facebook.com/Voltage Espresso. Go and follow them. Maybe a message of support if you can. That'd be awesome. All right, so business news, again, along the same lines as tech board and startup news. If you've got a startup story to share, you want to tell people how you're adapting and all of that sort of stuff, send them an email or a story, and I'm sure they'll be happy to get you in the press that they put out there.
Yeah. And like a lot of these gigs that we run at Morning Startup, we record a lot of them. So if you want some great content, and again, there's no shortage of amazing content out there, check out nicheinterview.com. And there is lots of content on there. And also, I'm going to mention Ammo Marketing, but I'm going to allow Cam to do his own plug for this. But yeah, big shout out to all our supporters. Like I said, we couldn't do this without you. So are there any announcements? I guess there's a lot of, I'm going to look at the webinar chat here for these announcements for people to put in there. Obviously, there's a lot of links being put up there. Adapt, Don't Stop being the main kind of hashtag and links that are there. Are there any other events that we know that are going on, be it virtually, that we want to give a shout out to?
I just saw Charlie there posted the innovation vouchers deadline has been extended till April 8th. Yeah. So thanks for letting us know about that, Charlie. And it had originally been extended to today. So they've put an extra week on it by the looks. That's great.
They have. Yeah. So if you are looking for that little bit of a grant, for want of a better word, the innovation voucher, it is the innovation, I forget what they're called now, the new grants or new industries fund, as it were. That's 20, you can get up to $20,000. You have to match it, I think, with up to 5% of that investment, but you can get up to $20,000. And the government, the WA government, will help you fund that. But yeah, check out, if you don't know, just check out Google WA vouchers, and we'll send out a link at the end of this. Are there any other announcements out there? No, we're just going to see. What we'll do is, as we go through this, rather than keeping you hanging on, we'll go through this and we'll just list out all these events. There's one here from Brody. Thank you very much, Brody. Events.humanatics.com/the world is your elevator. So what we'll do, and as Charlie's put there, he's put down the link there to the innovations vouchers. What we'll do is we'll collect up all these links and then we will send them out in the email. So make sure that you are, I think actually as a result of being on this thread, we have collected your email. So thank you very much for that. We will send it out to that, but we will also send out a message via the normal meetup group means. So Scott, hit that button.
Hit the button. Okay, sorry, just a couple more things. Obviously, if you want to reach out to us, maybe you're interested in presenting. So we're going to try and keep doing this for every 2 weeks online until this is all over. So hit us up if you're interested in presenting one day. And there's a couple of Slack groups as well that you can also get involved with. perthstartup.com.au is one of them. I know Nate just started up one called the West Coast Water Cooler. So get on some of those and chat with your local Perth startup folk.
Yeah, so if you want to know the Nate's one, it's got some great content on there as well. It's westcoastwatercooler.slack.com. Go and register as well in that one. One thing as well is with this whole content here, there's the world is changing literally hourly, it feels at the moment. There's going to be a lot of you out there wondering what the new stimulus potentially means to you and your business. So we're just going to discuss as the organizers whether or not we actually run another event like this next Wednesday. So we'll probably might do it if it calls on it to do it next Wednesday. But next Wednesday we'll have Shane and Dat from Elevate Group basically running you through what the stimulus means to you as a startup. And again, I know there's a lot of questions out there at the moment because there's a lot of bits where the stimulus doesn't quite cover startups. But if you're an SME as well, what that particularly means to you. And so what we'll do is I think given what's going on, we won't wait 2 weeks. We'll probably bring it in a week and maybe run it next week. But Scott, Robbie, and myself will have a chat offline, and we'll see what goes on with that. So I'll let you, Scott, do the intro to Cam and Tyler.
Okay, well, awesome. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we've got Cam and Tyler talking about the amazing growth story that UnoGroup has been going through. This is a live recording of the Weird Growth podcast. So once this is all done, we'll give Cam the video and can upload it so you can check it out all over again on your podcast app. But look, without any more ado, I think I'll hand over to you guys.
Brilliant. You're going to have to forgive me as I kind of work around how I stop their videos and how I change.
That was the real reason you wanted an intro.
I promise I will try not to disconnect us. Right, here we go. Right, I'm going to turn your mic off, Scott. Right, I'm going to stop your video. I'm going to stop my video. And I will stop mine. Stop my video, and we are going on mute. Cheers. Right, over to you, Cam. The floor's yours.
Yo, welcome everyone to Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journeys that founders find themselves on. We are streaming live with this very special edition, thanks to Morning Startup, and thank you so much to Scotty and to David for pulling this together. You guys are the glue of the WA startup scene, so thank you so much for everything that you guys do, and thanks for having us today. Today is even more special because we have joining us Tyler Spooner from UnoGroup, UnoCart, UnoMoney, UnoInsights, all the Uno things, and formerly Feedmee App. Thank you so much for being here, Tyler.
I appreciate having me.
Mate, it's great having you. Look, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're working on.
Hi, I'm the CEO and co-founder of UnoGroup, and we're a market intelligence platform.
Thanks, mate. Now, where we like to start with Weird Growth, we are about delving deep into the story and the twists and turns that you go on through the founder process. I'd really like to start at the start with you, if that's okay. I know you started out life in New Zealand in some tough circumstances, and I was hoping you might feel comfortable enough to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay, I can talk back. So basically, growing up, had some hard times. I became an orphan around 10. And then that kind of changed a lot of my life. Got into a bit of trouble around 18. In and out of foster home, in and off the streets. Then I got a one-way ticket to Perth, Western Australia at 18.
So why Perth, Western Australia for Christchurch? What happened?
Yeah, the whole mining dream, I guess. We had a family friend. So my sister had a family friend over here. So I had somewhere to stay when I landed. And also mining was a big thing, right? You could make a whole lot of money on the mines, apparently. How
did it feel when you first jumped on the plane to a place where you didn't really, you had no real connection except for your sister? What was that like?
So I had one family friend over here in a suitcase. So I landed thinking I was going to make millions of dollars in the mines. And it was actually the start of the bust, right? So when I came, I couldn't get a job anywhere. Not even KFC would hire me. So it was interesting times.
Yeah, I mean, we live in interesting times now as well. Are you seeing any parallels, do you think, to what happened during the GFC in 2009?
A bit different. I think it's a lot different this time. It's affecting wider businesses and more life of how we kind of interact with each other. So a bit different back then.
Sure. And you're a young guy starting out your career. What were you looking to achieve? What drove you at that time? What were you trying to do?
It was actually a way out. So I got into a bit of trouble with the law, also with gangs in New Zealand. And then coming over here was a clean start. So there's a saying I like, two young fish were swimming in the water. They pass an old fish, and the old fish says, "Isn't the water lovely this morning?" And as the two fish swim past, they look at each other and they go, "What the hell is water?" And it's kind of what I was in such a bad situation. I didn't realize I was in a bad situation until I got pulled out.
Yeah, wow. So what did you do? You landed here in Perth. You had this dream of making the big bucks as a lollipop man or something like that on the mine site.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite pan out that way. What happened?
No, yeah, it didn't. I actually ended up getting a job working on the rail line, which is good money.
Right.
Yeah, and then from that I got into small business. So I started to read actually. So I worked on the rail train line at nights, started to read, got into audiobooks a lot, learned a lot of stuff about small business, started a commercial cleaning company.
What were you
So I
listening?
got into anything I could. I'm semi-dyslexic, so I couldn't really read growing up, and then audios was a good way to actually get the knowledge, right? And then once I got the knowledge, I was hooked. So
Wow.
Jim Rohn, started off in Jim Rohn, a lot of Jim Rohn stuff. It's really good. And then just anything I could.
So that was something which inspired you to take a bit more of an entrepreneurial path, or to, what did that actually sort of drive you to do you think?
Yeah, just learn and understand, right? So I had no understanding. So like for me growing up, I was in a really poor area in New Zealand. Like you had made it if you weren't in jail and you were like tradies were like the top of where you'd go. Nothing wrong with tradies, great profession, but that was the top. That was like if you'd become a trader, you'd made it.
Yeah.
So just understanding how business works is massive.
Yeah. Was there any other influences in your life, do you think, that drove you towards business, or was it really just the reading that you were doing?
Just the reading, honestly, just reading and understanding. And then once you get into small business, you learn a lot really fast.
You sure do, yeah. So you were working on the railway, and what sort of work were you doing with that?
Pressure cleanings. So like pressure cleaning the roof structures down, and a bit of the gruesome work on fatalities.
Wow, really? That's full on, mate.
Mm.
You started your own small business then. How old were you when that happened?
23.
Yep.
Yep.
And what was that like? That must
It
have
was
been
interesting.
full on as a 23-year-old.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I thought you'd create a product and you could just sell it. So I learned a lot in small business, a lot of door knocking. So I just drive around and knock on businesses' doors and try and sell them commercial cleaning, which is a good learning curve. I guess you learn a lot doing that.
There's nothing like a bit of cold sales outreach to teach you the realities of running a small business, for sure. Yeah.
And it's funny, right? Because you turn up on cleaning and you knock on the business's door and they think you're a client. So you walk in, they get excited to see you, and then you try and sell them, and then you're trying to sell them commercial cleaning. They just look at you quite aggressively and kick you out.
How long did you do that for?
I did that for 2.5 years, and then I sold it, and then that's got kicked and started me into tech.
So you sold it. So that's really interesting. Yeah. The vast majority of small business owners aren't necessarily in that frame of mind where they're building an asset which can be sold. Most of them are, it's their expertise and it's just their way of, having a job. That's the vast majority of small business owners. Was there anywhere that you sort of learned, realized that was something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was lucky. So the thing about commercial cleaning is your contracts are really valuable. So unlike a lot of small businesses, because you work crazy hours or because you're really skilled, you're able to grow the business. With commercial cleaning, it's the same thing, but your contracts are very, very valuable. So when you sell your equipment and your contracts.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. So okay, you sold the business. What was it called, by the way?
Econ Cleaning.
Econ Cleaning. So it had like an eco kind of angle to it.
Yes. Huh? So like the concept was actually to get into recycling as well. So we would come through, we're like 100% eco-friendly. We'd remove all your recycling, put it all into like paper, waste, and rubbish. But then what happened was the recycling phase of it didn't actually grow, and the commercial cleaning phase grew. And I found myself scrubbing the toilet at like 1 a.m. in the morning because someone called in sick on the Saturday, and the toilet scrubber actually snapped. and I said I had enough. I just had enough of it. There's nothing wrong with cleaning, but at that point I was like, there's got to be something else.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And what were you planning on doing after selling the business?
Help. I wanted to give back. So I had a lot of help growing up, and I thought if I made a little bit of money, I'd turn around and give back. to the people that kind of helped me. So I started helping out. So Oz Harvest, Second Bites, Food Bank, just spending time down at the charities.
Yeah, wow. Man, that's awesome. Where does Feedmee come into this? Or is that, are we jumping ahead too far?
No, that's about right. So I got actually frustrated with charities, more around how they don't work together. So I took a small business mindset and I came in and I was working with a food rescue charity and they're talking about buying a new truck. And I went, oh, well, I work with the other food rescue charity around the corner and they've got 2 trucks they don't use on these days. Let's interchange them. And they were like, oh, no, we can't do that. We've got our own kind of funding and we've applied for funding to get this and these companies want to fund it. And I'm like, well, we could just use the trucks. Like there's no point having 6 trucks when we can just use each other's trucks. And then it was just so much red tape. Yeah, it was just really a lesson for me around how the system is broken. Yep. So I thought, look, we can fix this. Not knowing anything about technology, I thought, well, what if every time you kind of book at a restaurant, the restaurant, instead of paying for marketing, would actually donate a meal? And that's how Feedmee was born.
Cool. So this is the social enterprise aspect of where a more nimble, business-minded organization can provide good, and do charitable things, but not actually be a charity. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And so I met my co-founder Brenda Lai, and she's really great at visual design and UX. So we kind of moved the concept along really fast. So even though we didn't have a product, we were able to work on a product, get it out there, and test the kind of market.
Where did you? So you met Brenda, and Feedmee became, your new project. What were the next steps from there?
So actually, FI was great. So I contribute a lot to how we got into the ecosystem from FI. So we didn't know anything about Founders Institute. We didn't know anything about technology at all. So we're building this app through a web dev and like spending a lot of money. Didn't know that apps had to get updated. Didn't know there was iOS and Android. Didn't know anything. Then we reached out so we went to Silicon Beach, to start up.
Okay.
Yep. We met Sean Barry there, and he said, "Look, you guys should go to FI." And then from there, I went to FI, and then I met the ecosystem.
What did FI teach you?
Everything I didn't know. A lot about technology, just the fundamentals, just a network. Other people trying to do how to pitch, how to talk about products.
The thing I like about FI is it feels like a boot camp. And I've not actually been a participant, but I've been a little bit involved. And it really does force people to be so customer centric and to have all those conversations and push you with those goals around, being customer focused. I think it's actually a really good process for young entrepreneurs. It's great to see that is still going as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. And it's sad that I ask a lot of people to go there early on startups and they feel like they're too advanced for FI, but you've got to get the fundamentals, and just meeting the people is really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. There's another similar program which Cyro runs for university researchers called On Prime. And they they get their researchers to have, 100 conversations. Sorry, it's not the Rona. It's dry throat. 100 conversations with 100 customers, and invariably they take their research and actually, pivot that and find brand new applications for customers that they never would have otherwise spoken to. So I think that as a foundation and as a principle is so important. Look, Feedmee, what was the big problem that you were really solving for your customers?
So the concept was like, it's very, very hard to find something to eat. So the interface was Tinder for food. So you can swipe through and find restaurants, because we thought that in choosing a restaurant, it was too hard. You couldn't actually, by looking at a picture of a restaurant, you don't know the menu. So we wanted to make the visual menu really, really sexy and smooth. And at the same time, you can kind of feel good about helping someone. So we got a little bit of traction. Like we donated over 10,000 meals. We got some key partnerships. Got to around 20,000 users in Australia. Partnered with Quandu, so a massive international booking company. Got some integrations with Uber Eats, Deliveroo when they first came over. Wow. But and then we got into +8 Accelerate.
Yep. That sounds like it was a real turning point for you guys. But I'm really interested. I mean, you glossed over this, but 20,000 users is no mean feat. How did you reach those first customers? How did you first make them aware that Feedmee existed and and introduce them to the benefits that you're offering them?
Yeah, we're a big believer in Facebook. I love Facebook marketing.
Right.
But we got in early. So like, I look at the app download costs when we were doing it in 2016 to what they are now, and they're a lot more expensive.
So you were running Facebook campaigns for the app?
Yeah, we're just running.
Version
Yeah, just clicks, 100%, just click, and it was like anywhere between 30 cents to 90 cents a download.
That's pretty cheap. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So this must have been about 2017 or something like that.
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you were able to actually get in front of people, introduce them to this new concept via Facebook, and then get them to the point where they're ready to download an app for the cost of about 90 cents.
Yeah, small interesting thing around it. So like when we say Tinder for food, people kind of thought about it. So a lot of people already had the kind of concept. So when you said that, they thought it was fun. They kind of got the concept really easily. They could download to explore, which is quite cool.
Well done. Getting into +8, what was that like?
Yeah, it was great. We were the first kind of cohort along other great startups. You've got Avast, you've got Hum, you've got FarmSafe, you've got QuizJam. A lot of these companies have all changed their names. This is including us.
Sure.
But yeah, really cool. Really, really cool and experience. I'm actually wearing one of the t-shirts now.
Love it. And so you had Tim Brewer was the EIR for that first program.
Yeah.
He, I believe, had quite an influence on, well, everyone in that program, but you guys as well. What was it that you sort of took out of that 6-month process that that benefited, where you are today?
Well, Tim's actually an advisor to our company as well. So so I met Tim in FI and he's helped me along the way. Like, I mean, we had a conversation before we got into +8, sorry, where he sat down, he goes, Tyler, I think you need to go and get Deliveroo and Uber Eats as partners. And then I had to go off and get it. And then I went off and got them as partners and they came back, and that's kind of what pushed us into +8, got us in there actually. But he's been a great advisor over the last couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's that external, like, just encouragement and push that can go a long way for driven founders. Yeah, it's amazing. During that +8 process, is that when the first pivot, or as you call iteration, change for Feedmee happened?
100%. So we did a lot of Tim was a big believer in jobs to be done framework.
What's that?
I don't know.
Can you explain that? Can you explain jobs to be done for anyone who doesn't understand it?
Yeah, it's kind of understanding what's the job that your product does for your customer. So it's a very customer-centric way of figuring out what actually what is the actual job. So a lot of people they think they've got a solution for a problem, but you don't actually know what problem you're solving. So it's a framework of how you kind of explain what you're trying to solve.
So it's getting down into the weeds about that little action, the things that you're actually doing for the customer. Is that right? Yeah,
100%. And so we did a lot around that, and we actually found out that our customers don't eat out a lot, but they cook every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
so
and how did you find that out? Like, what was the process? Was it actual conversations on the phone with people, or how are you getting that information out of them?
Yeah, straight to customers. So we would ask any customer we could get hold of. We'd run kind of promotions in the app. We try and get people to talk to us so we could just talk to them.
So you were messaging them on Facebook Messenger, or were you phoning them, emailing
Facebook
them?
Messenger, Facebook Messenger, email.
How did people respond when when the app developer for the thing that they downloaded a few weeks ago started trying to talk to them?
This is the interesting thing. So like back then it was hard because we didn't have much active. So like they're kind of semi-active and they kind of like the product but didn't love the product. There was no love in the product.
They saw it once Facebook downloaded it, might not have come back again.
Yeah, or they didn't really care too much for the product. And as we kind of iterated over the years, the love gets stronger and the feedback gets aggressive. You're not actually asking for feedback and they're telling you.
Wow. Okay. So that's when you're starting to get closer to product market fit. People
the love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you said that you started discovering, and the feedback you were getting from people was that eating out was a more occasional thing that they did, but something that they did a lot of was cooking at home. And I'm guessing this is where the grocery stuff starts to come in. Is that right?
Yeah. So like the problem we're actually solving is I don't know what to eat. Not that I don't know what to eat when I'm going out, but just I don't know what to eat. Full stop. Right. So you're sitting at home, the kids are screaming, you're looking at your partner, and you're like, well, what are we going to eat?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of where it was born, right? So we integrated into not only restaurants but also recipes. And then we had a combination where it would recommend recipes and or restaurants. And then once they started doing the cooking at home, we got a big spike in growth. Download cost came down as well, bit of viral growth. And then they started saying, well, we started thinking, how do we make money off it? We still had to try and give back as well. So like, how do we still fund the donation part of it? So we're like, well, how about we actually do the grocery delivery then for you?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So was this all during the period of the Plus8 program that you were going through these discoveries?
Yeah, coming out of the back of Plus8.
Okay.
And then we raised a bit of a seed round at the back of Plus8.
Yep.
And then we're going to dive into grocery delivery. I remember one of my advisors looked at me after I said we're going to do grocery delivery, and he said, just be careful, because when you throw the anchor over the boat, you don't know how deep the water is.
Wow.
Because logistics is very, very troublesome. It's very hard.
Big time. And you start becoming a two-sided, well, you were a two-sided marketplace in the first place, I suppose, but.
Yeah. We already had demand. It was supply we had to fill.
So
we're kind of lucky on that. We already had half the marketplace kicked up. It was just trying to fill the supply side.
It's the interesting thing about two-sided marketplaces. It makes it a lot easier when one side is already spoken for or taken care of in your business.
Yeah, 100%.
UnoCart launches as a food grocery delivery service. So you have people, runners out there collecting people's groceries, and you have an existing user base who are using your recipes to choose which groceries to buy.
Yeah.
How did that feel at that moment when stuff actually started happening?
Yeah, revenue spikes were good. So it's nice to see a lot of revenue come in, right? Because groceries is there's no margin in it, but it's high. Like the cash comes through, right? People spending $100, $200. Yeah, so you're touching a lot of money, but you're not making a lot of money, which can be deceiving, right? So the growth chart looks really aggressive. We're growing like 200%, like in revenue numbers, not profit though. And it's a very, very hard. So you talked to my co-founder who looked a lot after all the shoppers, and she was just on the pump 24/7.
Wow.
Just communicating with how the shoppers, hey, because like there's a lot of systems in place, like picking, packing, tracking, a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. So the business model was very simple.
That Woolies and Coles really started stepping up their home delivery service too.
How did you
communicate yourself there?
Yeah, so very simple. So like the idea was that we would match the prices so you could shop across. So you had your own personal shopper that would go out. So your fresh produce was picked fresh. If there's no products available, they'd ask you, the communication with the shopper, right? And you could go to Coles and they'd go to Woolworths and Aldi. So they could kind of do like a triple shop. So you could get like the Coles specials, the Woolworths specials, and the Aldi specials. And then the way the business model works,
the cheapest groceries.
And same day delivery. So you could order it today, you get it today, and you could communicate. So it was faster, quicker, cheaper. And the business model was made to not cost the user, but also sell marketing. So we thought that we'd be able to market to big brands, and big brands would actually pay for product placement.
And did they?
No, we got a meeting, actually really cool meeting with, I reached out on LinkedIn to Product and Gamble.
Yeah.
And I managed to get hold of some of the C-suite there, had a meeting with them. And that's what moved us into our third pivot, right? Which was after talking to them, they didn't actually care about the marketing. They cared about how the consumers are shopping between channels.
The data.
Yeah, the insights around it.
And so you said that's where you moved towards your third pivot, but how did you make that decision? Because if you've got a business that's running, people love it, you're getting food delivered, you've got the pickers, they're happy, and then this other opportunity comes along. How do you make a decision about that?
So unit economics weren't profitable. So everyone loved the product, but the unit economics weren't profitable. So we're losing money. And we couldn't figure out how to monetize it. So like it was a very simple choice of we can't keep going down this way. It's not America. It's not like Instacart. You can't raise $1 billion, right? Okay.
Yeah. So that's wonderful to see. If you were in America, do you think things would have been different?
I guess we'd raise more money, but it's not profitable at the end of the day, right? Unless we're going to get bought by a big company for logistics, it's just not profitable.
But imagine that you could have actually gone out and raised money on the UnoCart model because you had turnover, but it would have taken you longer to realize that that the unit economics weren't going to work. And we have seen that story many times before, haven't we? Where pets.com and things, they just get this massive cash injection and they become a zombie business.
Yeah. So Honest Bee was one of them. So Honest Bee, where it was around the same time as us, and they raised like 32 million.
Wow.
through Singapore, and like they're dead now.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, yeah.
So these big brands want to understand how their customers are purchasing their products across the fast-moving consumer products. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, so FMCG, which is fast-moving consumer goods. So it's like, how do you understand how consumers shop between stores? So the problem they have is there's a lot of data these days, like a lot of data. From your Woolworths credit card, you got credit card data, which doesn't show you the SKU level, so it will tell you where you shop, but it won't show you that you bought Coke.
Right.
And then you've got the real Woolworths reward cards, which will show you that you bought Coke, but it won't show you what happens in Coles. So it doesn't show you the into shopping between channel.
Yep.
And what we did is we understood very early on when we're doing the personal shopping that once a shopper has finished shopping, they've got to upload a receipt photo. And we had a huge problem where we would have to type out the receipt. So we spent a lot of time in developing technology to actually extract the items off the receipt and then match it to like a system that we could actually understand, so we knew the shoppers were shopping the right items. So we built this technology on the way, and then we talked to the brands, and they said, well, we're more interested in the insights from the receipt data rather than the actual marketing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of that as well is you have a small number of customers, being the big brands, who have a large sales value. So your sales process all of a sudden goes from being high volume, low value to low volume, high value, which is actually a much nicer business to have if you can do it.
Yeah, longer sales cycles, but yeah, 100%. And we could also turn on the tap with users, right? So we made the decision to completely get rid of the delivery arm, keep the grocery comparison, but then offer receipt upload for points.
For points.
And we saw, for points. And then we saw a massive spike in user growth.
Wow. So what are the points? How are you motivating those customers to upload their receipts?
Yeah, so we've changed the name from UnoMoney to Receipt Jar. And basically it's simple. You upload your receipts each week, and you earn points. Every 1,000 points, you get a $5 voucher. You can do surveys. You can do weekly draws as well. We have a monthly weekly draw where you can win a couple of thousand points. Also, we have a shake game. So every kind of certain receipt you get, you shake that phone, and you can win up to $500.
Wow, that's mate. You've been through, like, already. We haven't been through all of the different products and services that you offer, but through so many different iterations and different customer bases and different product offerings, how do you stay energized and motivated to continue pulling this sort of like clown handkerchief out of the pocket?
Yeah, I got a lot of support, right? So I got a great team behind me. Brendan, my co-founder, my tech co-founder Jason, he's great. So I've got strong technical capabilities as well. And then I've got a really good investor group that supports me, which can be hard, right? You go and talk to them like, we were doing this, we had great growth, but like at the end of the day, it's not going to be profitable, which is very hard if there's grocery delivery, right? And they've supported us, and that's how we learn market feedback, user feedback. And at every iteration, we find different meanings of what growth is. So right now, we've been growing over 20% month on month without marketing user base.
Well done, mate.
Yeah, and like that's we've never had that before, right? So like it's when you kind of get those things, you're like, wow, this is kind of what it feels like. Instead of getting like a cheap acquisition cost of 30 cents, like that feels good. But like when you get organic growth, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's when you know that you've built something which people genuinely want.
Yeah. And they get angry and they send your reviews get a bit crazy. So we've got around 3,500 5-star reviews on the App Store, but we've got a lot of 1-star reviews from very angry users as well that are very aggressive. So you kind of feel the love-hate relationship.
Through. Yeah. Well, mate, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs, so you can't really install people, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So where's the business now?
So we process
doing 20% month on month.
So process. Yes, we use, so it's an interesting thing, right? When you're in apps, because you lose a lot of app users off the bat. So like I think it's 20% app users retain after 60 days. So you lose around 80%, and the acquisition cost is crazy. But we used to track monthly, we now track daily. So what's the percentage daily? So we're at how many thousand a day? What's the tracking of that? So we processed around, I think we did 249,000 receipts last month.
Wow.
Across Australia. And then we're watching the growth of that, right? So the users get more engaged, they upload more receipts, we track more. We've tracked around 1.5 million receipts in the last 12 months, around $109 million with transactions.
Wow. And that's very valuable information to these big consumer brands, huh?
Yeah, so data is interesting. It's like trash. If you don't know what you're collecting, it can be rubbish. So yeah, and we've got a lot of IP around the technology, how we extract it. So like we take the receipts on, and there's a lot of processing and cleaning of the data. So how do you extract it? How do you change, like, for instance, Woolworths receipts will call Coke 39, and then IGA will just call it Coke. And you've got to kind of match the two codes together to like a unique UPC code.
Wow. So you've got this whole sort of understanding now of how all those products fit across the whole, like the omni-channel, I guess you call it, all the different physical and online shopping centers and everything. Amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like we have a couple of smart technology, so a lot of proprietary technology that actually matches and understands the codes.
Yep.
And we've got, and then from that, like we got massive partnerships, right? So to help us with the understand the market, the B2B side of it, because we still had a great product, we had great tech, we had users, we were growing, but we didn't understand the game. So we don't know what we don't know, right? So we don't know how these big companies work and how they actually acquire data, how they use data.
And so you're obviously alluding to Nielsen, the partnership that you announced earlier this year. How is that working out for you so far?
Yeah, great. So like, it's good to have someone that understands the game.
Yeah.
I mean, so like the biggest thing you struggle with as a tech provider and like being disruptive is you got disruptive technology, you got a new way of getting insights, but unless you know the people or you know how to play the game, you won't get in the door.
Yeah.
So like for us, it's like we can focus on our users and our technology, and we can work with Nielsen. They can tell us how the market wants it, and then they can use their massive sales team and the relationships they've had over the last 10 years to get us in the door.
But for the same token, this is awesome opportunity for Nielsen too to still have that ability to be nimble through you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're like the different way of doing things, right? So they can be like, we're doing some innovation here. We take on all the risk and all the technology. We've de-risked a lot of it. And then in return, they provide the guidance and then the brand relationships.
Yeah, awesome. All right, mate. Well, we're getting a few more questions coming through, so I'm going to try and wrap it up soon. I've got a couple more questions for you, though, before we do. What are the future plans for the future growth of the business?
Yeah, so I guess all of us are facing hard times right now. So a smart friend of mine said, like, the companies that actually double down and then get aggressive, so change the business model slightly, double down, get aggressive, will actually grow through this, right? Companies that kind of get scared and kind of lay off staff and kind of dwindle a bit will actually could die. So I guess for us, we're kind of figuring out, we've got some big partnerships, we've got some big contracts. It's like, how can we support them more in this time of need? And then just like doubling down on their real core value to them and growing.
I mean, there's no doubt this would have to be some of the most difficult trading environment that anyone's experienced in a generation. And I think if I was to have to place a bet on the founder of a business in these sort of times, it would be you. I mean, you have been through adversity, from very early on in your life. You've been through multiple different iterations of your business. You have that tenacity that you're going to be successful regardless. So, I think this is your time, and it's so exciting to see, that you're taking it head on. You're not being defensive. You're actually looking at this from a potential offensive point of view. So massive kudos to you for that, Tyler.
I appreciate it.
One other thing that that Jack from Ammo wanted us to do, because we were going to be actually recording this originally in riff, was to have a riff on different startup ideas. If we were to just, hypothetically start with a blank slate and not be in our existing businesses, but if you were to start from scratch and create a startup right now, what would it be?
Oh, wow.
In this drone apocalyptic landscape at the moment.
Right now, I reckon there's a huge problem. So like if you look at the stats around the US unemployment, so I think they did around 2,000, they usually have around 2,000 requests a day. They had 78,000 in one day and growing. So they've got a huge spike in unemployment. We're going to have it here as well. So I think there's a huge opportunity into like helping the unemployment, like the workforce, and then also helping businesses, right? So if more businesses go under, there's more talent. If there's more talent, then companies still want talent to grow.
Yep. So there's something in that employment and
something around that kind of space.
Latent labor supply there, which is just looking for something to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, on the news last night that charities were in Perth were, reaching out to people who are, sitting at home collecting their New Start checks now. I mean, there's for the charity sort of sector, there's this massive opportunity to start recruiting volunteers, and there's a lot of people out there in need that the volunteers can help as well. So it's going to be
they're in trouble, right? So like if you look at the charity, it was quite sad. A lot of people that help out are elderly in charities, and they can't now because of coronavirus. And then before, you were very precious about what kind of canned food we got. If it was dented, we wouldn't eat it, so that goes to food bank. And then now the shelves are bare. So like there's just not enough food, not enough support going to them at the moment. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, no, I think you're bang on there, mate. And I think if you have the ability to help at the moment, you have a responsibility to help. That's the way I see it, and use your skill set in any way that you can. So
that's what we try to do as well, right? So we were like released before the restaurants got closed. We tried to release data to show like consumers weren't going to go eat out in the next couple of weeks, to try and help them understand when to close up, how to move staff, because we saw that as getting destroyed first, and a lot of people will be affected, right? So 100%.
Those data insights that you guys have been putting out have been really interesting and fascinating. So if anyone is out there having a look at, is that under the UnoInsights banner? Because there's some really cool, interesting things there around.
Yeah, so if you just go UnoCart.tech, I'll redirect you to it.
Yep, cool. One big piece of advice to founders that are looking to grow, what would you say to them?
Looking to grow, I'd say timing and team are the two main things.
Okay, can you elaborate?
Can you give me more? Yeah. So like the timing of the market, right? So like you've got to time it, make sure the timing's there, and then you've got to have the team to support it.
The team, critical. Okay, thanks, mate. All right, before we get to questions, something we always do on Weird Growth is a little bit of show and tell. And so we ask people to bring one piece of advice or a tool or something that they're using that's improving their life, that they'd like to share with everybody. So do you have anything that you can share for your show and tell, Tyler?
Yeah, I got two. One from a business point of view. So obviously we're into data and insights, so we have a lot of dashboards. So we really like Redash. Redash, just for like creating and developing your own dashboards internally. Really big on internal tools, really big on tracking things. So we like that from a business point of view. And personally, I'm a huge fan of YouTube Music.
Right. Is that right?
Recommendation engine. I really like the recommendation engine. I think
so would you rate that over Spotify?
100%.
Is that
so
right?
Like and like for the value, right? It's $20 a month, which is pricey, but you get YouTube Premium.
Okay. Yep. Well, they'll have to check that out. That's awesome. My brother's he's a high school music teacher, and he uses YouTube Premium all the time to keep kids occupied. So I'll have to check that out. That's cool. All right, mate. Well, thank you so much. We've got a few questions coming through. So I don't know if Scott and Dave are listening, if they want to officiate the question answering process. But what I will say is that we have a little bit of ammo swag in the form of these hats. And so anyone who asks a question today on any of the channels, it will receive one of these hats. We'll figure out a way to safely post it to you. So please, be encouraged to fire questions Tyler's way.
Cool. Ammo swag. That's awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, so we've got a couple of questions here. Let's see. I did have
there was one from myself. I'll jump straight in while you're finding those questions. One there was Tyler, what would be the one thing you'd recommend? Cam kind of asked it in a way, but I was being more specific, as to say, if you are growing a user base, what is the one thing you'd recommend to anybody kind of, growing a SaaS solution? What is the one tool or one thing that you would recommend to grow your base quickly?
To grow it quickly, I reckon intercom. So you need the feedback. So the faster you get feedback looped from users, and like the more they love your product, the more painful they get with the feedback. So it's great.
And in what way? So we went intercom specifically. For anybody who's not heard intercom before, can you just explain, the value proposition of it and how you use it?
Yeah, so intercom integrates very easily with your iOS apps or your Android apps, your websites, and it's just a portal that allows them to talk to support. So we make everyone on the team go on support. So like if you're a developer, if you're marketing, if you're myself, if you're Brenda, anyone, you go on support and you talk to our customers and you find out when things are breaking, how they're breaking, and why they're breaking.
Okay, Perfect. Excellent.
All right. So I'm going to go with Paul Rhodes because you asked it in the chat before. Kind of techie question. I was wondering where you got the UPC codes from. I tried finding a good source for a long time without much luck.
Yes,
like Coles or Woolies provide an API or something.
What are
no, I wish. UP, so the barcodes, the unique product codes, universal codes.
Okay.
Yes, I wish there was an easy source. So we crowdsource, right? 200,000. We have 249,000 receipts a month. So that's a lot of users. A lot of users can scan a lot of products. So we process hundreds of millions of barcodes as well. And then we have a system in place that learns, so it understands what they're doing, it corrects it from the user, because you can't just let users give you data because it can be really bad.
So do the receipts have the UPC codes on them, or did you take photos of barcodes?
Yeah, so the value of a product, right, is receipts have receipt codes, which are crap. No one can use them. It's kind of like an encrypted system.
Yep.
And then every manufacturer has a UPC code. So then we have our users technology extracts the line items and then matches it to UPC code. So users crowdsource UPC codes and then match them.
Amazing.
And we have kind of some smarts around it. So we have like a prediction system in the background.
Interesting. Nice. Interesting. Right. Are there any other questions that we've got down the panel? We had 44 people watching at its peak, which is great to see. And we've got 36 now. Are there any other questions from those of you who are
ask them in the Q&A section? So Brendan Murphy asks, Tyler, how did you find your co-founders?
Yes. So I actually met Brenda when I was working in the commercial cleaning business. She was working for the government. And then we started talking and we actually started exchanging ideas on charities. And then from there, we got into Feedmee. And from there, it's been history, right? And my co-founder, or tech co-founder, Jason, we hired him. I'm a big believer in paying developers. You need to pay developers because they are a precious resource. And then if you've got a company that they're excited about and grow about, then just when you can offer them equity.
Nice. Cool. Lawrence Lau asks, what policy changes that you'd recommend to federal and state politicians for them to better support early stage startups?
Yeah, I think R&D should be moved forward. Just for a lot of people in the ecosystem, I think that's a really good thing. Policy, I don't know. I don't think it's the government's job, honestly. Like the R&D is great, but I think it's more around get traction, get investment, grow, rather than government.
Well said.
Yeah, there's no finer money than customer money.
Well said.
That's right. One from me. Ever thought about packing it in, Tyler? Like, what was the worst moment through this whole Feedmee, UnoCart, UnoGroup journey that you've experienced?
Yeah, how'd you get through a lot of learnings. Every kind of growth cycle, you get something different. Someone else comes knocking on your door, whether that be an international competitor or stuff like that. But never thought about throwing it in, I guess. It's kind of like there is only a plan A, there is no plan B. So
fantastic.
Brilliant.
Any other questions from the audience?
You'll get a hat.
Get some sweet ammo swag.
You don't have to have a hat. I don't care. But if you want one, ask a question.
Through which channels did you find good developers?
From which channels did you say?
So that's come from, again, apologies if I don't say this correctly, but Majana, I'm sure Scott will correct me if I've said it incorrectly, but yeah, the question there was, through which channels did you find good developers?
So like the biggest advice I'd give to a non-technical is get technical. So you need to get technical. So for instance, I knew nothing about technology and then I had to learn enough to be dangerous. And now I'm trying to learn a bit more. So you can understand what is a good developer, how long does it take, what's the time frames? Because without understanding what they do, you can't tell what a good developer is.
I completely agree. I will put it another way. Someone gave me this saying, which is you can't really run a restaurant if you don't understand what the chef's doing in the back.
100%.
So, yeah. Brilliant. So we've got one more question here from Sophie. Advice, any success tips on how to best present your offering to potential investors?
So this is interesting, right? So you listen to a lot of people talk about pitching and presenting, but there's one thing that just will solve all sorts of problems, right? You can be getting sued as a startup, you can be losing money, you can be all kinds of stuff, but if you have growth, it solves all. So like if you are presenting to an investor and they have a question like, well, how do you monetize that? But if you're growing at 1,000 users a day, they don't care. So if they ask like if you've got a co-founder, but you're growing at 2,000% in revenue, they'll find a way. So I think growth solves all problems. So if you're trying to pitch for capital, if you are growing, you will get capital.
Again, I'll put that another way. I think it was the founder from Safety Culture says, if you have traction and you have revenue, you won't need to find investors. They'll find you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Okay, cool. We've got a few questions here now popping in. Oh, and seed investors. We've got one here. What's the most unscalable thing you've done to get here?
Deliver groceries myself. I had to figure out the system. So I had to figure the system out, right? So I had to find out what's wrong with it. So I'm out there delivering groceries with the team at the start, which is kind of interesting when your people in the ecosystem order groceries and they're like, oh, hey, Tyler, you're delivering the groceries, right?
Brilliant, brilliant. This is you've got to go understand how the business runs, I guess. I want to hear from Jack. What advice would you have for smaller business to adapt or survive these current times?
Yeah, so if you're in smaller business, find the most valuable thing you're providing to the market and then just go on that. So double down on the most valuable thing you're providing, whether it be to consumers or to other businesses, like tap that main vein and just focus on that, hyper focus on that.
Agree, completely agree. Brilliant. Well, that kind of brings us close to the hour. We're at 8:28. Enough for you all to get back to your day jobs, get out your pajamas and get in front of your home offices. Any final words, Cam, before we kind of cut this feed off and going back doing our day jobs?
Well, I'd just really like to thank, obviously, Tyler for the insights today and for sharing, what is a personal and a wonderful business story. And it's just really great to see that the caliber of this sort of the founder that Tyler is, that we have here in Western Australia, and he's not the only one, there are plenty of them. But thanks for sharing your story today, Tyler. There's some great insights there, which I'm sure a lot of fellow founders will take from that. And also, of course, thank you to the Morning Startup guys. I did say you're an institution in the WA startup scene, and in these tough times, it's actually a real comfort that we are getting together. There were 48 people at the peak of this chat. We are still getting together. Nothing can stop Morning Startup. Not even a global pandemic. So thanks, guys, for putting together on today.
Thanks, mate.
And Weird Growth. This is going to be up on our Weird Growth channels soon. So please subscribe to that. Our latest episode that is live now was a chat with Ian McIntyre of Hum, a fellow +8 alumni. And that's a really interesting chat as well. So if you're looking for something to listen to over the next few days, I encourage you to check that out.
Yeah, I'll +1 on that. That was an awesome podcast that you guys did. Great interview. Really interesting story, their journey.
Thanks, guys.
Very excited to see what Hum are up to next.
Brilliant. Indeed. Right. So without further ado, I think just to kind of close it out, we will probably, Scott, we'll probably run this again next week. I think I'll have a chat with Scott. I've definitely got a presenter lined up for next week. If you're all up for it, we'll run this again next week. Same time next Wednesday, we'll send out the details via the normal channels. And so again, tune in same time next week at this link, and hopefully the world is a better place when we all meet again then. But until then, thank you, everybody. I'm now going to try and work out how we take this off participant mode. I'm sure it's without disconnecting everybody, but thanks everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.